I got that granny flat after they left. But my mum had decorated it in Laura Ashley. I don't know if you know, like literally every millimetre of it was flowers. So here I am into heavy metal, Motorhead, Saxon, all these heavy metal bands, and I'm sitting in a room that is literally the complete antithesis of this. And so, I wasn't allowed to, so I had to cover it. And you can imagine Laura Ashley covered in Black Sabbath posters. I mean, it was a nonsense.
You're listening to The Occupational Philosophers with Simon Banks and John Rice.
Hello and welcome to The Occupational Philosophers, the not-so-serious business podcast that mashes up the worlds of creativity, curiosity, and a dash of philosophy thrown in. Each and every week, I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, John Rice in the UK, Shoreham by sea, as it happens. John, what's caught your curious eye this week?
Hey, Simon, what's caught my curious eye is I read a short post by the renowned author Dan Pink, who was citing a study that was run back in 2004 by a psychologist called Jens Forster. And it was about how imagery or the environment that people are sat in can affect levels of creativity. So they had two rooms. They had one decorated with neat, ordinary, symmetrical images and the other with strange, kind of broken up patterns and surprising sort of iconography or whatever. And they were then just sat in their groups and asked the classic brainstorming creativity question, how many unusual uses can you find for a paperclip, which we might have heard of before? And the results were that those exposed to the weird, broken, surprising patterns scored far higher on the creativity, as would be measured in that kind of particular study or test. And what he was then just obviously saying is it goes to that thing about how the brain loves errors, prediction errors. It jars thinking. It sort of takes the brain in a different direction. And when those patterns break, your mind's paying attention. And it's all shifting to the, as he would say, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's tied to creativity, fresh ideas, unexpected solutions come easier. And that's why he was then leading into the idea of why many creators might surround themselves with the unusual or things that help them jar their own thinking. So he would say that could be a location like Paris for writers or,
Paris for poets. I read this
Paris
article.
for poets,
Yeah.
did you? Paris
Yeah.
for poets or jazz music for the other types of creatives or artists. So I thought that was really interesting. It sort of sparked two things to me, which is that ideas come about through looking at the world differently, paying attention in a different way. And obviously at the heart of our show, Occupational Philosophers, in a work context, it's maybe just having a thought to how you might create an environment which can emulate that in some way, which could be in the office or it could be taking people out of the office to expose them to something in the outside environment that might yield similar results. So that was a really nice, short, sharp article, I thought, brought us back to something that's very much at the heart of what we talk about. How about you, Simon?
Well, the example he had in that picture was Picasso's Weeping Woman. So I'm reading it going, they exposed them to that, but it wasn't. That was just the concept of the shattered face, if that's the right way to say it.
Yes.
What I'm always interested in is in these studies, how many uses of a paperclip or how many novel ideas. I always think it's a really weird way to measure creativity. I think anyway, I'll get off my high horse, but I think it's a very narrow
paperclip,
lane,
brick,
isn't it? Yeah.
Pencil, something like that, yeah.
I'd like to see how much trouble could you go outside and get in or something. You know what I mean? Like, what could you... I don't know. There's a bit more to it than that, but
who can get the longest prison sentence?
Yeah, who can go out and do some cool shit or something? I don't know. Anyway, so what's caught my eye, John? Mantras. Now, my wife has put me onto a podcast. It's the Mel Robbins podcast. Who's an American, probably one of the top podcasts in the world. And so slowly got into it, but I've listened to one of hers around mantras. So she's got these 8 mantras, which she thinks will change your life. And it's pretty good. So I've been doing it for a week. I'm doing an experiment. Today, and you say this first thing, today is going to be a great day. Something cool is going to happen today. No matter what happens today, I can handle it. An exciting new chapter in my life is starting today. I need to give myself more credit for how hard I'm trying. They get a bit more sort of emotional as you get down. I'm allowed to be a work in progress. This is where I start crying on that one. If I keep showing up, life will reward me. They get sadder as you get towards the end. I have an important contribution to make to the world. So I've been doing these every day. Last week, I thought this is working awesomely. This week, not so sure.
So you're still in this as a running experiment with no firm outcome yet?
The good thing is, that's the first thing I do, and it does reset your brain for the day, which I do think. So even if you don't have good things falling out of the sky, it does shift your brain. And how's this? I was at a gig yesterday up in Queensland. I rocked up. My luggage didn't arrive. So everything I had for the workshop. And I just had to deliver it in the same shorts and T-shirt I wore there the day before. So, so in that sense, I think maybe I managed what was there.
Well, today, Simon, it's not one, but two curious cats, two exceptionally talented guests who, in my mind, show the true power of creative collaboration and imagination. And I'm very excited to introduce you to them. Together, they have brought to life the Skip Gallery, which was an international collaborative project. And the original idea was to forge opportunities for artistic interventions in unexpected places, repurposing rubbish skips. So I want to find out more. In addition, they are also the founders of Graphic Rewilding, another large-scale public art project, which is all about inspiring joy and wonder by introducing the diversity and colour of the natural world into busy urban environments. And finally, Produce UK provides a wide range of services for experiential event and placemaking clients. They've amassed an impressive portfolio of experience working with clients like Luminaire Light Festival, London Festival of Architecture, London Festival Week, Vanity Fair, Nike, and the Discovery Channel. So let's offer a huge welcome to artist, curator, and producer Catherine Borowski and fellow artist, composer, and public speaker Lee Baker, otherwise known as the creative powerhouse Baker and Borowski.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We got it. Yeah. Woo! Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump straight in. What's caught your curious eye this week from the world of the curious, imaginative, creative, or the downright boring?
Wow.
I've been looking at that performance piece by the artist, I think her name's Stephanie Lane, who did work outside Buckingham Palace in the UK, which was tens of women, kind of semi-naked with equipment attached to them. And it's a comment on the dairy industry, the intensive farming of the dairy industry. And it's really, really breathtaking to watch. It's a huge spectacle. I think there are maybe 200 women kind of just wearing underwear and sort of being strapped up to these sort of portable milking machines. And it kind of takes your breath away and definitely gets you thinking. I think it's a really successful piece of work. Yeah, kind of stopped me in my tracks, actually.
And where's that? Outside Buckingham Palace, like in the park there, if I'm saying that right?
Literally right in front of the Mall. I mean, it's right outside Buckingham Palace. And then they were walking down was it Regent Street or one of the big streets? And I think the fact that it kind of coincided with, we've just had Fashion Week here and we've got Frieze Week, which is a big art week here in London. And the fact that it's kind of coincided with those two, it really kind of makes you think, bloody hell, is this fashion? Is this a show? Is this commentary, activism? And I think it really successfully blends all of those pieces into something that, well, certainly kind of made me think about my dairy consumption, actually. Yeah. I think the fact that the costumes were a little bit kind of Gautier-esque, weren't they, in their presentation? So at first glance, you were like, was it a fashion statement or whatever? And it's like, wow, it was brutal, actually. It was quite hard to look at.
And what's the name of the artist again?
That was a pattern break.
Yeah,
what's the name of the artist?
So. I think her name's Stephanie Lane, and it's called The Milking Herd. And they're wearing kind of beige underwear. And as well, it's a bit like a commentary, I think, on kind of Kim Kardashian and Skims, kind of control wear that women are wearing that's kind of come back into fashion that, women fought against in the women's liberation movement to get out of girdles and corsets and things like that. And we've now kind of come full circle where women are running towards wearing control underwear. And it just made me think of that as well. There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Makes my mantras a bit lame, actually, with your and shallow.
I know we'll get into it, but I'm just curious there's a slight bit of imagery behind your head. Obviously, listeners won't be able to see, but it's one of your type of the imagery that you produce. Do you do any mycelium and fungi? Does that ever factor in your paintings?
Funny you should say that.
Oh,
I've been drawing fungi this week and really starting to read, starting to investigate, starting to build some kind of foundation rather than just diving in and drawing for willy-nilly for no reason. Starting to just dig in, because I think it's going to be definitely the next phase of graphic rewilding. You'll be seeing that whole world explored.
How often do you draw? Do you draw every day?
Yeah, I draw every day. Sometimes the drawing is practical, just getting work done. And sometimes it's, funnily enough, actually, I was chatting to someone, I don't really sketch. I mean, I've been doing a few doodles, but I stopped sketching as such years ago because I found it just didn't really inspire me much, sketching. I love getting straight down to it and making mistakes on the final article. Making music was like that. I never did I stopped doing demos years ago. Just like get down to it, start make the mistakes, finish your thing.
There's something to tease out there, I think, Simon, on this, isn't there? Later on, advice.
Yeah,
that's a brilliant insight, isn't it?
We could close the episode there just on mushrooms.
Yeah,
I'd be delighted.
Just get on and do it. Stop making a podcast. Just go and do stuff.
Just quickly, where are you both in the world? What can you see out your window?
We are in Kemp Town in Brighton in the UK, and outside my window, I live in a little mews in a little street that was 200 years ago used for horses and coaches. It was stables. And so I'm looking out onto a series of black stables that have been here for 200 years. I can see a glimmer of sun, which is pretty amazing.
Yes, we're always welcome.
We've had really intense storms down here. I think the day that you emailed, I had a flood. My roof kind of came in and I had floods and floods of water. So I'm really overjoyed to see a little bit of sun today.
Catherine lives in, honestly, she's one of those streets where you walk down and just like, you think, what sod lives here? It's amazing. It's beautiful. Do you know the street, John? Those black.
How far up is that? Is it up towards the Rock or whatever it is? No, not the Rock. Where am I thinking?
Yeah, it's the Rock Street. Is there?
Yes.
Do you know Marmalade Cafe and round there?
Just round the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's movie set stuff, isn't it? It's the kind of thing that would appear in a Richard Curtis movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And you, Lee? What are you seeing out your window?
I've got oblique views of the sea. I live in a top floor flat. It's the only exercise I get, to be honest. I'm like top floor flat. Then I'm very lucky. I kind of bought this flat because it was on the T junction looking right across Brighton. So I've got fantastic views just across like streets and houses, but the sunsets, it's east facing there. So I get fantastic sunsets here.
A source of inspiration.
Yeah. Tiny little flat, but I love it.
And I think we should just say, which was mentioned very briefly at the start, I'm in Shoreham by Sea, which we've realised I actually only am 3 miles away from you or something like that.
Yeah, you're literally down the road.
Down the road, yes, in the small sort of middle-aged enclave of Shoreham by Sea.
Come on.
It's true. I used to live in Brighton, John, when I was hip. I'm now moving towards Worthing with the hip replacements, and I'm just sandwiched. I'm sandwiched in the middle as a cardigan-wearing, slipper-wearing middle-aged man in Shoreham by Sea. You know Shoreham by Sea, Lee.
We can see the nodding look on your face. Yeah.
Catherine, can you remember when was it Shoreham where we did that Michael Johansson?
Oh, yeah. I was wondering what your funny, amazing story was. I was thinking, I don't think we've got a Shoreham story. But yes, we did a collaboration with an artist called Michael Johansson for Skip Gallery. And he wanted to make a skip, which is also known as a dumpster for international listeners. He wanted to make a skip out of household objects. And it kind of was up to us, because he was coming from Berlin. It was up to us to find said household objects. And he doesn't cut anything. So every single kind of side had to be kind of to the millimetre fitting the shipscape. And we went to Shoreham and bought some 1980s skis. Is that the story?
Yeah, man. He literally had us schlepping, like we thought he was just going to bring all the stuff over with him and build it there, whatever. And he was like, could you kind of go and get everything for me? So we were literally emptied out our house of household objects, running around Brighton, running around everywhere on Gumtree and all those kind of things, trying to find this stuff. I think we ended up in Shoreham to buy a pair of skis for him to... Do you know Michael Johansson's work at all? Do you know his stuff?
I don't think I do. No.
Check his work out. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. He takes household objects and fills spaces absolutely exactly with these spaces. So he could take the gap between two buildings and fill it with blue objects that fit perfectly with each other, but they're just everyday objects. It's phenomenal.
I'm still intrigued by the fact, I know what the answer is, but I had to go to Shoreham to get some skis. You go, the flattest place on earth.
Oh, yeah. Ridiculous.
Okay.
Skis are very 80s, you know what I mean? So people would have them in the carport
Exactly
or the
that.
garage. So
The woman, I think she'd had them for sale for about 17 years and she couldn't believe we actually turned up to buy them. And then when we sent her photos afterwards that they became this kind of amazing piece of sculpture, she was pretty flabbergasted.
That's
She was very
because
happy.
she'd taken up snowboarding, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a good Shoreham story. Now, we're going to dive into what we call our dinner party round. And look, you may or may not have been at this type of dinner party. You get there, it's a bit of networking. Oh, hi, what do you do? Oh, I do this. And it's a bit like stay and you're thinking, oh, God, I wish I wasn't here. So John and I thought, imagine we're having a dinner party. What would be some more interesting questions to ask to kick things off? So what we might do is we'll go one, just to keep us smoking through. We'll go one each and we'll ask one of you, then one of us ask the next question. So I will go to Catherine. What's giving you joy at the moment?
What's giving me joy? Probably my son's giving me a lot of joy. He's 15. He's just turned 15 and he still wants to hang out with me. And
It's a miracle.
I kind of can't believe it. That is a miracle. And that's kind of overwhelmingly, when I think of all the brilliant things in my life, I think, okay, my son right now, he's really making me really happy and he's funny and we're still hanging out. So actually it's very pedestrian and really boring, but I'm really enjoying hanging out with Loris.
Yeah, that's a great joy.
Yes, that's making me warm inside as well, because our son is 16 going on 17. But yes, to have them still sort of wanting to be with you at 15, I remember that.
Yeah.
It's not that long ago.
Those days.
But you've now got the fun of GCSEs coming up. So
Yeah, I know. I'm dreading it. I'm dreading it and trying not to project my own anxiety onto that time of life.
very joyful.
Yeah.
Lee, I'm going to sort of come to you now. We're going to imagine this is a whooping party. I mean, everyone that could possibly be here, who's alive, so this is not a live or dead question, is here. Who would you want me to introduce you to, given that everyone is here? You could choose anyone. They are here. Who would you like me to introduce you? And a secondary question is, and how would you like to be introduced?
Oh my God, that's flipping out. Well, to start, Catherine knows this well. I hate parties. So I absolutely hate parties with bollocks conversation. So I usually corner someone and try and stick with them for the entire evening. I wrote some things down earlier. Probably coming back to the magic mushrooms. I'd probably like, there's a guy called Merlin Sheldrake, who's my current obsession, who's a fungi expert.
And he's got the name for it, hasn't he? Merlin.
Yeah, Merlin. I mean,
Yeah.
God. I mean, it's pretty out there. So I'm reading his book, Entangled Lives, at the moment, which is absolutely fascinating. But I was thinking the other day, I don't know if you got, I'm really, really into kind of animation and manga and all things Japanese, actually. But this is like an animation, but I was watching an animation the other day called Arcane. It's probably like your 16-year-old son will probably know it, but it's a beautiful animation. And I'd love to meet the team behind that. They're called Fortiche, and a French animation team. And I'd love to just sit down and nerd out with them at a party. Probably not the most whooping, probably like literally just like corner off in some,
Yeah. I can see you just want to sort of, let's have a nice cozy conversation. How would you introduce yourself? Let's imagine you've managed to secure a little spot in the corner. how would you introduce yourself?
Or what
Or
do
how would
you
like me
do?
to
Like, what would
introduce
you say what you do? I sit in the middle of these 3 or 4 things.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, do you know what? It's funny, actually. I don't introduce myself as a musician anymore. That's interesting. It stopped happening, I think, a year ago or 2 years ago. It faded off. I wondered if that would ever happen, but it's true. I just don't even mention it. And even that's 30 years gone. I think I'd introduce myself probably as an artist, public artist in the public realm, yeah.
Would you expand on that in terms of, and then the type of public art or what sits within that?
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Within that, because sometimes you try and explain, don't you? And it's like, I end up getting my phone out a lot because you try and explain, it just
Yeah, look at
falls
that.
dead. That's what I do because it does speak for itself.
It does. In fact, funny enough, as I was coming into today and I was looking around some of the work, I did show it to my kids and they just all went, oh, wow. It was that moment, visual kind of sitting back going, okay, I get it.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I have to say, it's like, in that respect, in a way, it's hard to introduce myself without Catherine in the context, because before me and Catherine teamed up, the flowers were just in my studio. They were just like me privately painting away on these kind of Japanese-inspired flowers. And then Catherine was like, why the don't you get these massive, man? Just blow them up. You know, the world needs to see these. Because Catherine will tell you, we were commissioning artists left, right and centre for public art projects and curation, all that kind of stuff. And then she was like, tell you what, get these in the, you know, we'll send this out with the portfolio of artists, various things. And we did. And everyone was like, hang on, what are they? Can we have them, please?
Yeah.
And are they inspired by Japanese lino cuts or something along those lines, or lino prints, or?
Yeah, I mean, very much kind of woodblock, but also kind of
woodblock. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
ukiyo-e, and also hand painted stuff, ink drawing, and there's a whole kind of wide, full gamut that initially came from loving anime and manga, and then going to see Takashi Murakami exhibition at the Serpentine, like, I don't know, 25 years ago, and then went to see a lecture by him, and he was talking about these historical artists. So I went and found those artists, got obsessed with them, and then just went down a whole rabbit hole of stuff. So, yeah.
I need to catch this, Lee, because as you were saying, I'd no longer introduce myself as a musician. I do know that some time ago you did sort of compose and work with Tim Booth of James. I did catch sight of that. Now, look, James is the band I've probably seen more than any band.
Wow.
So, you know, they are at the Everest of my musical
Wow. Okay.
collection.
All right.
So I'm now 2 degrees from Tim Booth. I can't tell you how happy that makes me.
Hey, man. And he's over in Brighton regularly. So,
Was that Booth and the Bad Angels? He's one of his solo albums. Is that right?
yes. No, Angelo Badalamenti, he made that. As you can see, I wasn't part of that one, but I kind of got involved with him later on. But yeah, I'll get you some tickets to their next gig.
John got so
hustling on the side.
John was John was so excited. His shoreham by sea middle-aged neighbours knocked on the door and told him to keep it down. It's 8 a.m. So yeah,
That's really funny.
Now, Catherine, you said it's when you introduce yourself, it's almost like, let's say the two of you are together then. How would you're both meeting at in the mushroom corner at the party, but what do you guys do? Like, how do you describe, what are your intersections? Because there's many. What do you sit in the middle of?
Kind of depends really on who I'm introducing myself to, and I'm going to suss out the crowd. If I think it's a crowd that's really cynical and they've been there and done it and they're top of their game, I think the only thing that can kind of get them will be, graphic rewilding and then showing some pictures of the work we do. That definitely stops people. But I think another thing is kind of, I've got a gallery and a skip. And that seems to also either stop a conversation or start a conversation, because everyone, regardless of who they are, has been in a skip at some point in their life or nicked something from a skip. So they would be my intros into the conversation, depending if it was a really cool crowd or an academic crowd or whatever. I'd have to suss out the situation. But I'd say I'm an artist producer, basically.
Okay, cool. So building on that, what are you curious about right now? Or is there a big question you're wrestling with?
I listened to the interview that Madonna did recently, the podcast. He's a bit of a spiritual guru whose name escapes me right now. And it's one of the first interviews that she's done. It was a long form interview, one of the first interviews she's done for many years. And she was talking about, kind of going back to your points about Mel Robbins and the 8 mantras. She really talks about ritual and spiritual practice. And her thing is, there is no way on earth you can have top tier, mega success without a regular spiritual practice where whatever you do in the day, you stop whatever you're doing and you concentrate on that, whatever it is, whether it's meditation or prayer. And in her eyes, she's saying kind of, I came up with all these amazing icons, amazingly creative, brilliant people, but the ones who didn't have that, they kind of fell to the wayside or are no longer with us. So that, I'm really thinking about that, but I'm nowhere near getting to that point in life.
There's a question which builds on that then. So, Catherine, come back to you then. Is there a habit or ritual that you're trying to then, building on the thoughts you had around Madonna a moment ago, do you have any habit or ritual that is in your day that you try to keep sacred, that is important to you right now, that you're trying to build?
No, but I'd love to.
But that's the thing that you are wrestling with right now.
Yeah, I am. I'm wrestling with that kind of commitment. I'm not necessarily I've that sort of commitment to sit down and draw or write or sketch or even do something at the same time every day. I think I lean more towards sort of chaos and loose. I was going to say loose living, but that's not quite true. But just kind of, I've run away from timetables
Being
and
sort of bounded
conformity.
or
Exactly that.
I think Catherine, and it's interesting actually, because I think we often know this, don't we? But Catherine does a lot of hoovering, and hoovering while listening to podcasts or hoovering, because I was thinking about this the other day. I come up with a lot of ideas while driving. And I think that kind of mundane, doing something, not doing something thing, which puts your brain into a particular gear, a lot of ideas come out that way. I definitely find that I don't listen to the radio or anything when I'm driving because I know something's going to pop up.
That sort of third space kind of idea.
Yeah. And I think hoovering for Catherine, I think that's, you think you're not doing something, but you definitely are, as in thinking wise.
You look down at the carpet and you've got a real great pattern there and you go, hey, Lee, what do you think of this? Now, just on the ideas, it's because we put so much stuff into our brain during the day, it all sits in the subconscious. And when we don't have any stimulation, it comes out. That's essentially it. So people driving, exercising, hoovering, that's the sort of the science behind that quiet time, if that's the right way to do it. There's a great video out at the moment, You Have to Be Bored, or It's Good to Be Bored, by a Harvard professor. Have you seen that one? It's kicking around YouTube, same sort of thing, yeah.
It's a real subject du jour. I mean, I feel bad for kids that they don't have the levels of boredom we had in the 70s. I mean, what we filled. I was talking to someone the other day about how I used to draw and make pictures come alive for myself because I just was so bored. It was unbelievable. And I think it's a real shame. I think there's a bigger subject here, and it's like you were saying about what are you wrestling with? Because I'm really wrestling with my identity, or within a world where AI seems to be the subject of the minute, where it's like you can make art in 3 seconds flat, click these buttons, and I've tried it. Everyone has. It brings me absolutely no level of satisfaction whatsoever. And the subject that I feel has been really missing is the practice of making art, the practice of creation, which is such a piece of magic, I think, which we very much had 20, 30 years ago when there was no internet, there was no social media. It was an act of activity. It was quietening the mind. It was all these things that were really, really healthy. And I think for me, I'm almost like, where do I sit in this world right now? What is my place right now? Yes, we make physical art, we make immersive art, which people can walk into and take part in. But we're constantly it's almost like we're being corralled by digital art. For me, I'm not a massive fan of temporal art. I like standing in front of a Van Gogh painting and choosing how long it takes me to absorb and to take on board this stuff. And we make static pieces for a reason. And yet I've been chatting to Catherine about this. It's like we're being surrounded by drone art, by digital immersive practice, by the whiz bang wallop of all these things and AI. And it's almost like we're being, I don't know, not pushed out, but there's going to come a time that when we're going to be battling against these things.
You've either got to go with it or you've got to kind of resist it and hope the world slows down at some point, because I think we are definitely feeling there's a kind of intimidation of just like, oh my God, we're not doing digital stuff. We're not doing this. We're not doing that shit. We're going to find new collaborators. There's a panic that you just have to, that sets in. And we kind of started having a snippet of it yesterday, and you just got to kind of wind yourself back, take a moment, take a breath, and just kind of keep in your lane and keep in your path. And of course, if the right collaborator comes along or the right brief comes along, then of course we do that in a heartbeat, but just not be panicked into changing our very slow practice.
Yeah. John, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating on a number of levels. But the thing that struck me, as you were saying, Lee, was about the fact that this new digital art that's fast moving is often, it takes attention. Whereas the static art, to me, has you pay attention. And there seems to be a difference of one is distractive. It's like distractive curiosity. We can be curious in different ways as well. We can be distracted by stuff and scroll and go further and further into something, but we're not learning or deepening our understanding of something. Or we can have that more deep-rooted curiosity that philosophers what they were encouraging us to do.
On that subject of distractions, really interesting. We're just discussing a thing we read yesterday. I don't know if it was like that. I think the director or the head of Netflix said their biggest competitor is sleep.
My gosh.
And this, I think that's what we're up against, I think. And you're absolutely right about distraction. It's the thief of creativity.
And Netflix know that if you've hit, because often people talk around attention span, and Netflix know, as in it's shorter now than ever was, but Netflix know if you hit episode 4, minute 35, you're in for the series. Like there's a point of no return when people binge. So when you talk around that sleep and that holding attention versus, it's a big question, what we should hold attention to, and sitting and pondering versus imagining or being entertained the whole time. And yeah, I don't know what the mix is in there, but there's a big question in there somewhere.
Drawing for me is that slowing down. It's absolutely that. It doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't sketch, but I have a digital pen in my hand and I'm drawing. When I'm drawing, I can feel myself. I don't know what's happening. A cup of tea in my hand and I'm drawing. I feel my whole being slow. And it's a magical feeling. And it's a feeling I've felt since I was 2 or 3 and pick up a pen and start drawing. And that's where I go to. I go to the child in me and it's getting destroyed. Every day I'm like saying to myself, every minute you spend on scrolling Instagram they win. I was saying yesterday, the biggest rebellion you could make against the man now is by switching your phone off.
Well, I love it. Yeah.
Can we have that as a hashtag, please, on our next T-shirt?
Yeah.
Hashtag switch the phone off.
Yeah.
Look, just as last part of this section, Simon, I was just wondering.
Been a good dinner party, John. Yeah, I like it.
It's been great. I tell you what, I think we need to sort of put the Ubers on hold.
Yeah.
We don't need them in this. This is a different sort of party, as we've come to know. The last question was just maybe it goes a slightly different way about, whether there's habits or rituals, but when do you feel most intellectually or creatively alive? And maybe that's the last question to both of you, just to give us a little answer on that one. When do you feel, you started to touch on it a little there, Lee, with the thing that still has you, it gives you that joy and makes you feel you're doing something worthwhile and engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. For you, is there more to that, Lee, and Catherine, for you as well?
Oh, in the city, I need it. The minute I step foot into a big city, I am alive and my head is pumping with ideas. I just, we've been in New York quite a few times this year, and I'm just kind of like, the minute I'm there, I'm kind of in my happy place. I'm electrified by it. And of course, actually the same in London, but I'm from London, so it's more kind of reminiscing. It's kind of going down the street, and I worked here when I was 16, and I did that and that. But, being in a new city, wherever it is in the world, we were in Shanghai last year for a big project, and that was completely mind-blowing. So I think, give me a big city and my soul is happy.
It's interesting, yeah. And
Yeah.
Lee, would that be, what would it be for you? Is there an environment?
That's an interesting, we've both grown up in cities. And I remember when based in Newcastle, there's an artist called Andy Goldsworthy. He's quite famous for making kind of land art. And I was quite obsessed with him back then and used to kind of try and do Andy Goldsworthy, but in derelict buildings in Newcastle. And I think me and Catherine kind of get off on cities and urban environments. Often the dirtier, the better. It's funny. We traveled loads around Italy and we love all the classics like Venice and Florence and Rome. They're beautiful, but actually we're much more at home in Milan and Napoli, where they're kind of much more dirty, gritty, divey places. I think me and Catherine enjoy that a lot. And I think it really speaks volumes about the work that we do. We really are dedicated to bringing joy into urban environments. We've been doing it for years and love it. And I think because that's where we come from.
Yeah. We were just back from Rotterdam. Again, it's one of those almost second cities that has had to find a different way and suddenly became a playground for artists and architects. And they are quite inspiring places to hang out.
There's a book I read quite a few years ago, actually, about the kind of birth of Montparnasse and Montmartre back in the day and how they were absolute dumps. I mean, these two places, the birth of Impressionism, the birth of Cubism, the birth of French poetry and surrealism, are these places that were barely livable in. Obviously, they're cheap, and that's where the artists go, and then obviously everyone follows.
Yeah, and then the coffee shops start, and off they go. That's it.
The coffee shop.
That's it. Simon?
No, I was going to say, I'm so delighted to hear that. I'm exactly the same. A city for me is that place where, bang, literally like this, I don't know, there's an energy and a currency that, and don't get me wrong, I love the countryside, but there's something around that. There's a hidden pulse which sort of seeps in your soul, and there's just, I don't know, energy bounces off walls or something, but I'm right in that spot. I'm vibrant when I'm in somewhere big and dense and noisy and, I don't know, different faces and noises and dialects. And yeah, so I'm delighted to hear that. Yeah. As I live in a sleepy country beachside town now.
I was going to say, I need to leave Shoreham by Sea.
Well, it's an interesting conversation because I've been craving the idea of kind of finding something like a barn or somewhere in the middle of nowhere where I can get it cheap and create something where I can make some bigger work and just get away from the noise. And me and Catherine discuss it a lot because Catherine needs the noise. She needs that bustle of the city. And if we didn't have both, I think they'd definitely go a bit stir crazy.
I'm really curious about your process and how do you, as the dynamic duo, work together? What does that look like? Yeah, just fire away.
We've been working together for about 10 years, I think. And probably in the first 5 years, it was a really argumentative partnership. We would fall out at the drop of a hat. So even when we started Skip Gallery, we couldn't even agree on what colour the skip should be and what size it should be.
The gallery started out of an argument. I think we were on a beach in Thailand somewhere, and Catherine's mum had passed away, unfortunately. And there's a whole story around that, which maybe I'll let Catherine tell. But like she was, and we were like, how are we going to celebrate her? How are we going to celebrate her? And Catherine was like, we saw these fireworks, didn't we? They set off these fireworks that turned into words, on the beach. And Catherine was like, I want to do that. I can't remember how she said it, but it's like, I want to do that and I want to do it in a skip. And we started chatting about this skip gallery and idea, but Catherine, being conceptual, just wanted a skip and that's it. She just wanted a skip, an empty skip, and you smell the skip. And I was like, no, you want to paint it and make it pink and blow it up and do this and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, conceptually it makes sense just for people to get in a skip and that's the art. And I'm like, oh, that's so boring. Jeez, you know, that was the first 5 years.
Just jumping back from that, how did you meet? As in, how was that first thing, the conception of, well, let's do something? Yeah, was it natural or forced or I don't know, like what?
No, it had to be. We kind of met each other on the way. We had friends in common and we met on the way to New York 12, 13 years ago. And we just had the total meeting of minds. And there was kind of no question that we had to make work together. We had to do art together. When we started planning almost from kind of day dot, that we were sort of met each other as kindred spirits and we knew we would be artists together. And that route has taken us via Produce UK, which is a kind of placemaking and production agency where Lee came in and ended up being our creative director within a couple of years.
I muscled in. I completely muscled in. Catherine was doing all these big projects and then she was hiring all these artists and I just kept going, yeah, I could do that.
I could do that.
I could do that. I could do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Shall I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about Lee is, even if he can't do it, my God, overnight he will have learned how to do it. He will have given himself a YouTube masterclass and he will have become an expert and he will do it and will do it better than the person who's giving the YouTube masterclass.
Question on that. Were you involved in the Triton Cafe at Regent's Place? Because I was looking at that and this, because we're looking at this amazing industrial installation with reused tiles from the Venice Biennale and a whole bunch. So everything's regenerated and repurposed. But I looked at that and looked at some of your other work and in my head, I'm like, holy shit, this is like a serious technical expertise in that as well. So did you YouTube video that one or did you? Yeah.
We had forgotten about that. I think it's fair to say. Triton
that's
Cafe,
a long time ago.
That we called Eden. And were we the principal designer? So it was our concept to create this 100% sustainable cafe and event space. And so I think you were creative director of it, Lee. And we had a massive team pulled together for that one. And it was just before COVID hit. So it was one of those, so many projects in London that were kind of on the verge of being a massive success, but the city was locked down for God knows how long. So
that was an interesting one where we're very used to presenting all these ideas to developers. So Catherine was working with a lot of developers like British Land and Argent at King's Cross and all these big people. And I remember presenting the ideas for this space that they had, got to the very end of the deck. And I think it was like the last page. And I just wrote, meet you in Eden, and just did some sketches of like this space. And they went, yeah, we want to do that. And I think I personally didn't have the technical know-how. I mean, this was a proper architectural build. I didn't have, and I wasn't going to learn it on YouTube overnight. That was definitely going to hand that fucker over. And then Catherine kind of ran with that. So it was kind of initial idea, creative overview, and some initial sketches, but then gave it away to other people.
We had a really hefty team to deliver that because it was taking what was essentially a construction site into something that became public use. So that was
if
pretty
your
phenomenal.
if your first 5 years was this, like butting heads and arguing, what transitioned to maybe a more collaborative approach? Is that the right way to say it? Or what does it look like now?
Yeah, we were always collaborative, but we were kind of itchy and scratchy. And I think Graphic Rewilding, we found our happy place. So, and it kind of, I realise now that it does sort of coincide with the end of lockdown. We were, as Lee said, putting together ideas for some public artworks, and we were kind of putting together, all the usual names with all the big geometric, colourful art that you see in London, or you were seeing 5 years ago. And Lee had his private practice in his studio of painting flowers. So I said, why don't we take your flowers and I'm naturally blow everything up massive. I want to see everything massive. And is where my brain goes to. And it's what really excites me. And so we did. And it was within probably a couple of months of doing that, presenting that idea and the clients, the commissioners loving it. We said, okay, there is something here. And both of us kind of quit our day jobs, quit our other businesses to concentrate 100% on new artistic practice. And it was something that brought together kind of Lee's gorgeous aesthetic and drawing skills and my spatial knowledge and production skills and all that kind of stuff. And so we've been doing it 4 or 5 years, and I've got to say, it's our happy place. It's
Yeah, we've
somewhere where
never been happier.
we don't argue. There's nothing to argue about. It's a real meeting of minds. It's a real kind of love project.
So I was going to say, is this graphic rewilding? What's the time frame for this then? It's the last 4 or 5 years, you were saying.
Yeah.
And in terms of the amount of projects that you've been involved in, this must be accelerating at quite some rate, the way people have engaged with it and taken it on and said, this is fantastic. That seems incredibly short time.
It's funny, I think that there's that old adage, that story about like a man goes to a Japanese calligrapher and says, he's like the world-renowned calligrapher. And he says, I'll give you £1 million to paint a fish for me, kind of thing. And he says, yeah, come back in a year, kind of thing. And he comes back and he sits in front of the calligrapher, and the calligrapher just gets out a bit of paper after a year, just draws it, hands it to him. And he's like, what the hell's that? And then the calligrapher opens up a cupboard and 1,000 fish fall out. It's that kind of, we got 35 flipping years of work that's led up to this. And it was a massive learning curve, though. I had to learn how to do 3D graphics over COVID. I learned how to do that. I had to learn how the entire system for how we work. We call it digital flower arranging, where I've got banks and banks and banks of hand-drawn flowers sitting individually that I can grab. And this is taken from how I used to make music. So I don't know if you guys are involved with music at all, but the whole sampling thing of like having banks and banks of snares, banks and banks of drum kits, that you would bring together and then play and whatever. That's how we do graphic rewilding. It's like sampling, but hand-drawn sampling.
Now, John, I know you gave an overview at the beginning. What is graphic rewilding? Tell us about the project. Like, what is it? And this is probably the show where you have to go and look at everything we're talking about. More than ever, this is the one. This will explain. But say first time you haven't got there yet, what is graphic rewilding? And I've got some follow-up questions for that.
So we take the colours and imagery of nature, blow it up massive and put it in unexpected spaces, generally in urban environments, but it could also be in a rural environment. So we do, massive artworks, massive sculptures, massive murals, installations.
I think because the underlying inspiration comes from very much actually a Japanese aesthetic, balance is really key. Color is absolutely crucial. In a way, it's kind of really easy to explain because when you see it, it's like, oh yeah, it's really obvious. There's massive flowers, super colorful. But when you dig down, it's so nuanced. It's hard to kind of go in. There's a lot of this that is related to mental health. There's a lot that's related to well-being of not only the public's well-being, as you explained, John, in environments where there's a complete lack of green space and there's idea of extinction of experience where people are literally losing empathy for nature. They don't understand it. They don't empathize with it because they don't see it. So we're trying to bring that to the fore in environments where there's literally no green space.
And I think our kind of love of nature, our love of flowers has not come from kind of growing up in a rural environment. My love has come from a kind of longing. So I grew up on a housing estate in North London where when we looked out our front room window, there was a car park. So there was grey tarmac and literally nothing else. And I just used to kind of sit there and just long for there to have a garden. I was like pined my whole childhood to have a garden to go and kind of make daisy chains and sit on a lovely grass lawn. And I know, and for Lee, his love of art has come from...
Well, look, I've absolutely had no interest in nature whatsoever growing up. Grew up in Watford and I used to customize cars as a kid. I'd rather spend time in a scrapyard hunting for a carburetor than walking around in nature. But then again, jump forward many, many years and kind of falling in love with Japanese art. And so much of that was about a representation of nature. But so nature seen through a human lens. So this is a bit of a wider story, but I'm Iranian. My mum's Iranian. During the Iranian Revolution, my uncle had to escape from Iran with his wife. Before he came, my dad built a granny flat in our house for them to stay in when they came over to England. This was back in the late 70s. early 80s. And I got that granny flat after they left. But my mum had decorated it in Laura Ashley. I don't know if you know, like literally every millimetre of it was flowers. So here I am into heavy metal, Motorhead, Saxon, all these heavy metal bands, and I'm sitting in a room that is literally the complete antithesis of this. And so, I wasn't allowed to, so I had to cover it. And you can imagine Laura Ashley covered in Black Sabbath posters. I mean, it was a nonsense.
With the mental health benefits and the impact in areas, and because as you said, it's so much more than just, well, I don't know if so much more than artwork, but it gives so much more than other artworks may because of the space and what's the feedback and impact you see, hear and feel, like either from when you put it in or what you're getting back from audiences, or what do you hear back and see back?
We've had works that have been in situ in pretty rough places for, say, 3 years, and it's never been vandalised, it's never been tagged, it's never been graffitied over. And there is something about the power of public art that the community, if it's something that's loved by the community and done either in collaboration with people or just something that is kind of like a love letter to the city or the place, it kind of self-polices. The community polices the artworks, I think. We are always getting DMs and emails from people who just really love the work, and it's kind of affected and improved their walk to the office or their walk to the tube or college or school. And that is something really gorgeous.
And it's quite interesting. The research that sits underneath it, I think it's touched on in some of the conversation so far, but certainly on the website as well, is the brain tricks the mind. The brain tricks people into the sight of something that is, albeit digitally represent or, artistically representing nature, still has the mind respond in the way as if it were in nature. And that's part of the value of what comes about through this work, isn't it?
Absolutely. Our brains have a preconceived notion of what the world is, don't they? So we have an image in our mind already of what a flower is, of what nature is. And therefore we respond to things that trigger that feeling. And we're going back to our ancestors who, when they're hunting and foraging, they're looking for signifiers that tell them they're safe. When they're looking at a landscape, they're looking for flowers that are telling them that there's going to be fruit in the next season. They're looking for a tree they can either run up or hide under or get under from the sun, run up to escape from a saber-toothed tiger. They're looking for water. They're looking for mystery as well. Like, i.e., there's a corner, I could discover something around that corner. And park designers, like back in the Victorian age, based a lot of their park designs on these concepts and ideas because they recognize that people really respond to this stuff. We respond to symmetry, we respond to curvaceousness. So when we put that into our art in a kind of bold, bombastic, maximalist way, we're kind of forcing the issue or forcing these ideas into people's brains. I give a talk, and at the beginning of the talk, I use an Apple screensaver. And that screensaver, I don't know if you remember the screensaver from a couple of years ago, where it was just kind of these purple hills that were emerging from the gloom. And they'd come and they were just literally hill shapes, and they were changing hues and tones. And I discuss this and basically say to people throughout the talk, so they start with that and then end with that and say, look, there's no sky, there's no trees, there's no buildings to tell you scale, there's nothing. And yet you see a valley and hills and you feel calmed by it. That is a meditative screensaver based on nothing other than your preconceived notion of what nature is. And so bear in mind, this is retroactive. We didn't research this and then do the work. We just were doing this work, or I was doing this work and feeling a lot better for it. I've been diagnosed with like autism and ADHD blended together. And 12 years ago, I had a breakdown, massive breakdown, and my ADHD went absolutely haywire. I can't even tell you. I couldn't get out of bed for 6 months. The only thing that made me feel better was going into forests and gold leafing dead trees. It was a weird thing, but apparently it's like for someone like me, doing things in nature is a good practice. It's like, I can't just walk through nature. I get bored. I want to leave. But if I'm making art in nature, then I feel good and calm. And that was the only thing that would calm my brain down. And the only thing that keeps me calm is drawing flowers. I can't explain it.
I don't think you have to. I think it explains itself. No, it's good. It's that notion of, and I'll give you an example here. This is my office experiment I've got going on at the moment. Like it's a mix of Van Gogh and the Renoir, but I do this to someone who's hardwired like yourself. I do that to calm myself down during the day whenever my head gets a bit. I've been working on that painting for 15 years. The oil's a bit hard for me, so I've thought this year, no, fuck it, I'm going to finish it. People, I owe it to friends. They've got a spot in their house, and I've just bit ADHD, fair bit myself. So sometimes I'm in it, sometimes I'm not. But that's my calm spot to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Picture in the show notes. Okay.
Fascinating. No. I think it's a fascinating subject, and we've probably gone off point, haven't we? Because we're basically talking about how do we work together.
No, that's been great. As you say, I think ultimately with graphic rewilding, as you've described it, we just have to encourage again people to get onto the show notes, click on the links and go and see this stuff and go and find one close to you, because they genuinely are breathtaking and joyful. And I'm looking forward to standing in front of some large public scale art project of yours very, very soon. Whether it's a skip or flowers, I don't mind.
One thing, it's funny actually, one thing I would say on that, going back to the collaboration thing, is that like, I can't tell you, I'm tremendously grateful to Catherine for facilitating the direction of where the work's gone. There's no way it would be here. It would be some nice flowers on a canvas somewhere, whatever, if Catherine hadn't have not only gone, why don't we do this, but also had the infrastructure to enable this and to enable this journey, really. So I think that's why we don't argue anymore, because I think like we both recognise the power of that.
It's just making me think. I was having a very brief conversation in passing with my daughter, who was talking about she's taking part in a drama production coming up soon. And we were talking about ticket sales. And I said, how are ticket sales? Oh, not very good, and maybe could do more. And she goes, you need to promote it. And I say, well, it doesn't matter. She goes, no, of course it does. So we put all this effort in. We want it to be seen. And it was just something about that. And I sort of said, if a tree falls in a forest but no one's there to hear it fall, did it make a sound? And it's that thing about impact of the art. There is still the practice is important, but you do want it to be seen, do you? Could you do what you do, Lee or Catherine, and just have it not be seen? Could you enjoy the practice only? Wow. I don't know where I've gone with that one, but...
No. It's true. Before working with Catherine, I used to do exhibitions, and I can't even tell you how depressed I'd get afterwards, because even if it had been seen, it felt so insignificant. It really did. It felt so self-indulgent and insignificant. And then working with Catherine, I think it saw the light in lots of different ways.
I think I naturally love to create a do. So whatever it is, I'm kind of, even if I was hoovering, well, we can have a hoover party. It's not, I love to take things out of the kind of normal everyday environment and change perspectives and change how people will consume and view things. So taking Lee's beautiful flowers and out into the public realm was just such a natural, it just felt natural. I couldn't not make that happen with Lee.
Yeah, I always think when people, again, maybe it's my own worldview pushing onto them, I don't want to show my art, I'm selling out. I'm like, your art needs to be in the world. That's like where it makes its impact, isn't it? Like, get it out there and make the world a better place. But again, that's my little rant. So I don't know whether it's right or not, but I think, no, you got to share that stuff, A
niece of my old partner, she came to an exhibition of mine once. She'd never been to an exhibition before. Not in that context. And she literally came up to it. It was brilliant. She came up in that classic way that kind of young children just tell the truth, don't they? And they were like, she was like, what is this? Is it like just showing off?
There we go.
As you know, philosophers throughout time and artists have done things like thought experiments to expand their thinking, ask big questions, and look at the world in a unique way. John and myself also have thought experiments on the show. Sometimes they're being referred to as pretty crappy 1970s game shows, which we find highly offensive. However, we're going to take you through our thought experiment for today. Now, this is called Skip, or Heaps Big Bin. In Australia, we call the Skip the Heaps Big Bin, because that's how we speak about things. So what we're going to do, we're going to present something. Is it something from the world of art, which we go skip, goes in the skip, or if it's not, if you think it's not true, it goes in the big bin. Okay. So you have to answer at the end, skip or big bin. Okay. So this is a play name or not. Revolution in the Elbow of Ragnar Agnarsson, furniture painter. Is that goes in the skip or does it go in the big bin?
Oh, I'm saying skip.
I think skip.
Okay, correct. That is an Icelandic rock musical that played off Broadway in 2014.
Okay, so this is Cook Dems. This performance art is performed in front of a live audience with the artist decorating a man in Speedos like he's a cake. The man stands there, emotionless, following the artist's commands as she paints him and smears icing on him. Is that skip or big bin?
Skip.
It sounds like a skip, but I'm going big bin.
Okay, well, Catherine,
It's a
it is skip, so well done.
Catherine gets
top
a
of the
point.
leaderboard. Okay.
They probably stood in the skip while they did it.
Yeah.
All right, next one. The Pigeonist Collective, founded in 1973 by the eccentric Dutch artist Bob van Pannenkoek, members painted only what pigeons could see from a lamppost height. Their manifesto began, "We reject the sky, for it does not reflect back."
No, that's definitely a big bin.
Bin.
That's definitely a bin.
It is a bin. It is a very big bin. Now,
It's really good though.
Really good. Really good. But I tell you what gave it away, I think, was a manifesto. Manifesto based on pigeons' views. No way.
Now, just as an aside note, Bob van Pannenkoek appeared in my art classes in our exams. Every exam for 4 years, we would always make him up to be a different person. Was never, ever picked up, ever. He was a New York street artist. He was Dutch Renaissance, blah, blah, blah. He always, or a pigeon
amazing.
person. So that's why I thought I'd throw him in. Yeah. So no one ever picked it up and they would just tick them all off and we'd reference them. All right, John, go maybe the next
Love
one.
it.
Yeah.
Next one for me, yeah. So this is called Yo soy el cactus y el gato. Translates to I am a cactus and cat. And it's the only collaboration ever between Picasso and Salvador Dali. But it was stopped halfway through as they found out that they actually hated each other. And Dali is said to have rolled up the artwork and smoked it in a pipe. Is that skip or big bin?
That sounds like skip. I mean, it seems when you said Picasso like collaborated with Dali, I'm like, did he really? Because I can't imagine them liking each other. And go on. What is it?
It's big bin.
Okay.
Yes.
From the mind of Simon and John. Okay, now, last one. Is this an artist's quote or not? Marriage is like putting your hand into a bag of snakes in the hope of pulling out an eel. And extra points if you can guess the artist.
Marriage is like a bag of snakes.
Putting your hand into a bag of snakes in the hope of pulling out an eel.
Is it a visual artist?
Yes. If they did say it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Very clever.
Very good.
I've seen your
Very
type.
clever
yeah.
question there, Lee.
Oh,
Skip or big bin?
that's skip.
I think skip.
Yeah, Skip. This is attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. So, well done.
Oh.
Well done. You've done pretty well in
Wow.
our thought experiment.
Very good.
Skip or
Very
Heaps
good.
Big Bin?
Okay, so we're just coming up to time now. So just to wrap up, what are you up to next?
We are heading to Phoenix, Arizona on Friday to go and do a site visit for a really exciting, massive desert project next year that opens exactly this time. Yeah, in 1 year's time.
How cool. John's taking the bins out tonight, so that's how
Yeah.
you guys off to Arizona. Yeah.
Heaps big bin. I'm taking the heaps big bin out, not the skip.
Okay, now, next, where can we find you, connect with you? Where do you hang out on socials? You've got a bunch of websites, but what's the best way to people to get in touch or see what you're doing, follow what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah, we're on Graphic Rewilding, which is, a .com, or on Instagram. We're on TikTok as well, where you can see me. Lee very kindly just put up a video of me falling into a pool in New York Botanical Gardens as we were installing an artwork, which
Nice
is
work, Lee.
very
Nice
funny.
work.
I think it's been one of our most popular
Of course.
posts, as you can expect.
Some Benny Hill music going in the background. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
exactly.
All of that.
Exactly. I mean, looking for Graphic Rewilding on all the socials and everywhere, and you'll find us. Yeah.
Well, that's us. It's been a pleasure. And
That is.
Oh, so good. Thank you.
Time has passed super quick.
seeing your stuff on LinkedIn, it's just my joy. And that's, I thought, oh, God, have them on the show. So, and as I said, words cannot do justice to the quality and the impact of your work and the scale as well. When you start to look at some of these pictures, it's like, I don't know, it's awesome. Just check it out. Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Catherine. Lovely to meet you both.
Pleasure.
Definitely. And John, next time you're over in Brighton, man, let's
Let's have a coffee.
Let's have a coffee.
let's grab a really expensive coffee.
A really expensive coffee or something stronger.
Yes.
0.8 grams.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Enough said
Okay,
there.
Done.
Another amazing episode or show there, Simon, with Lee and Catherine. I mean, I could have had that conversation go for 3 hours. I'd be very happy to be stuck in a corner of a dinner party with Lee and Catherine,
Yeah,
wouldn't
great
you?
dinner
Just sort of
party
chatting
guests,
this stuff
yeah.
through.
They're my
Great
people,
dinner
man.
party
They're my
guests.
people.
We found our tribe. I mean, we tend to find people who are in our tribe through this podcast. But yeah, no, that was wonderful. Picking some things out of that stood out for you or resonated with you. What did you
I think they're probably similar ones to you as well. I find that spot that brings you joy and energy. Like they found cities of their creative inspiration. So I think it's just good to be aware, well, what lights you up? Where do you need to go to get lit up a little bit more? So,
Yeah.
And it could be in all sorts of ways you talk about that, but what's your spot and it's good to know it and try and hang out there.
Yeah, and it was quite interesting, that contrast between the work that they do, which takes them into cities and urban places, but absolutely covering it in art that is representative of nature.
Yeah.
But what's sparked it has been the excitement and the stimulation they have through being in the city. But the way they've brought their nature into it, I think, is a lovely combination or bringing together of two big ideas.
Probably jump into collaboration isn't always linear. I liked how they've got I know yin and yang or two yangs, or they've sort of gone through different forms. So I think it might be, this is your
different
world.
phases. Itchy and Scratchy. Itchy and Scratchy was one phase, wasn't it? And I thought, we all have that.
Yeah, but maybe
there's still good tension.
Maybe some work teams maybe have to lean into the itchy and scratchy a bit more. It's not really my forte. It's more your world, but it's okay not to agree, but maybe those disagreements bring out the best in each other. Yeah, so it maybe goes into, bands get together and they create something great, but there's not always, I don't know, but when that magic's there. So yeah, I like that. What about you?
The other one that was when we were talking about, what's the big questions you're wrestling with? I mean, Lee was capturing the sort of the moment of how AI is kind of sort of invading and imposing itself on all different areas of creativity and art and the like. And he just said, look, what's my place right now? And it is that kind of a reassessing of, okay, well, where do I fit in all of this with all this AI, digital art crowding in? What does it actually mean? And he then said, but let's remember, though, that doesn't give me joy, pressing a button and creating something with AI. What gives me joy is the practice of making and doing and working with my hands and engaging my own mind and creative spark in the work that I do, not just producing.
And I think that's lost. I mean, we tried to do an episode on AI and we decided we wasn't any good, so we canned it. But I think
because the script that AI wrote for us was rubbish.
Said make us sound cool and hip. Yeah, didn't work. But what I'm reading another book at the moment, The World Needs Your Art, and it's saying, well, look, it's actually the practice of making the art, which is the point. You know what I mean? It's not just the knocking it out the door. And again, I'm all for efficiency, productivity, blah, blah, blah. But just that practice of making something and what that does for your soul. And I like here, just thinking through that, how they say their art sort of connects communities almost silently, but nothing happens to them if there's ownership. I always think, but a big, I don't know, does that technology connect us like that? Maybe it does, but I think something with permanence and, I don't know, something that's soul orientated, maybe technology orientated. Yeah.
Technology, I mean, the general thing seems to, again, that it does atomize, it does individualize. So it was nice to see them talk about art. And it's so nuanced, isn't it? The graphic rewilding, it's working for individuals at a personal level in terms of enhancing mental health and well-being through that connection of nature and tricking the mind into seeing it as nature and having it had the same sort of effect on the parasympathetic nervous system.
You and your big words.
As one might have. But I know, there we go. I've had to double check that before I came to this sort of wrap up. But then the way it spoke to the community more generally and connected.
That's the bit I was trying to say, that connection of community. Yeah.
There's so much that it delivers. So, and it's just spectacularly good to look at.
So look, as I've said, there's a few things you need to look at. Graphic Rewilding, Skip Gallery, and also Produce, which is produceuk.com. So just, some things are better told in pictures, and this is certainly one of those as well.
And my last one is the hashtag distraction, the thief of creativity.
Yeah, what was it? You're going to the man, turn off your phone.
Distraction is the thief of creativity. And I think that captures it very well, that we live in a distraction economy and it's robbing people of the opportunity of being creative, of tapping into that well of creativity and imagination and curiosity that we all have.
All right. Good, John. So let's finish on that. As always, thank you if you made it this far. Really appreciate it. Well, aim is always to chat with people who've taken the path a little less traveled or way less traveled. So today was a perfect resonance of that. So as always, subscribe, hit the little plus button in the top of your podcast feed. And we always say, but if you can leave a review, people find us. So it's good for us. And we're embracing technology in that way and embracing the algorithms. Tell your friends, share it around at work, all of that type of stuff. And as we always like to say, at the end of our show, John, what do we want people to do?
Hey, stay curious, make stuff, have fun, play more,
and date life.